Hi there. Glad you could join us for this episode of The Weekly Cent. The Weekly Cent is powered by Founded Technologies nonprofit core. Transform your organization with a comprehensive software solution built for nonprofits. And by 1832 Communications, partnering with your nonprofit to help you build more relationships and raise more money. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at an email for USA for UNFPA, and I'm really happy to be joined by one of the sector's top fundraising experts, Beth Ann Locke of the fundraisercoach.com. Beth Ann, welcome. Why don't you introduce yourself to our watchers?
Thanks so much, Ephraim, and thanks for having me on. I work with major gift fundraisers and nonprofit leaders to help them raise more money in their major gifts. So I am excited to talk about this little project because I think they hit a lot of donors and I want you to be more effective.
Fantastic. So we will start with the subject line, which reads good news and bad news. Not a bad subject line at all because it gets me thinking. I'm curious what they have inside. What's the good news and what's the bad news? You know, we're curious. We want to know. We're going to open. In terms of who it's from, there's a name here, which is good. So it appears when it comes into my inbox, there's a name that's good. But the email address from and the reply to is info. If it's coming from a person, I would like that person's email address to also be the from and reply to, because then it becomes a one-to-one communication between the person at the organization and the individual subscriber. So we're going to jump right in, and Beth Ann is going to help us, and we're going to go through a couple of parts of this email. And we're going to start with this hero image, which I love. Stands out the whole thing. It is a great hero image. The language in the banner says, we have big goals, help us achieve them. And the question to you, Beth, is where should the focus be, on the organization or on the donor?
I really don't believe that people want to necessarily achieve big goals when what we read in the email is their big goals are fundraising goals. They don't talk a lot about specifically what they're going to be doing in the coming year. So what I would love to see is we have big goals for women and girls in 2023. You've had a big impact, or let's reach them together, or join us to meet them. I would use the word achieve, but I don't think it's very friendly. It's too kind of bogs down the language. Or we have big goals for women and girls in 2023. Join us to make lives better.
Excellent. So we'll stay right here at the top. We've got the hero image. Right underneath it, we have this little, we'll call it a thermometer, and it says 60% to go. My question to you is, does that help motivate subscribers to give so that the community together reaches 100% of the goal?
So I think it's a little confusing personally. I feel like, yes, it's almost halfway there, but in terms of what you're looking at and the donate now button, I think visually it's confusing. And for me, it doesn't jive with what is in the email.
Which we're going to get to right now. So good segue into that part. So if you remember, they said in the subject line, good news and bad news. And the email opens up with first the good news. And it says, thanks to your support in 2022, UNFPA was able to, and they have a number of data points here, reach 22 million women and girls with sexual and reproductive health services in 50 crisis-affected countries, help deliver 1.4 million babies in emergency settings, keep the doors open at 1,000 safe spaces for survivors of violence, and so much more. So they give you 3 data points. They open up with the good news. The question I have for you is, Beth, why is sharing impact, and in this case, they're also sharing the data, why is that important to things like fundraising, gratitude, and donor retention?
So I love having the good news, bad news, or the up, down, the opposites playing against each other. I don't actually think in this case, it's quite right. I think the bad news that they talk about isn't about women and girls, like what you referred to in the first paragraph, or the second paragraph, but rather it talks about their fundraising goals. So I think I just don't think it really fits. It fits with what they're doing, which is just talking about their goals as being financial goals. What I would love to see here is something like, but now the hard news, and I think, or, the more difficult, challenging news, but the hard news was, or the hard news is, and I mean, they have some great things in their report because I took a look at it. you could talk about how although they happily in 2022, we reached 22 million people. We are projecting that in 2023, we'll need that 66 million women, girls, and babies will need our help. So I know that seems like a big goal, but you could go back to the statistics, that they're doing. Like, we need to reach almost three times as many people will need help next year. We will look to get to another 15 countries, something like that. I don't think that's bad news. I think that can be motivating news. So I think something like, now the hard news. I mean, I think actually this whole paragraph, first the good news, I think you could lead with, in 2022, because of you, we reach blah, blah, blah. And then have another sentence, that's good news. Have it like that. And then the challenge, next, the hard news is there's even more work that we can do together. I think something like that, where you're pulling them together, but then put the statistics, not the fundraising goals. People don't want to help you fix fundraising goals. They want to make an impact on the world, and you need to make your language around that. And they're using it with their values, interests, and passions. So move toward that and not have the problem be that there's more fundraising to do.
Excellent. I like what you said about the having the more impact. And I think that's why, at least in this first paragraph, I understood the way you would reword it. I at least like the fact that they're sharing some of the data so that I, as a donor, potentially, I know, hey, I've been a part of this, and look what I've helped accomplish with the larger group of people. So, excuse me, in that second paragraph, they use the line, we only raised 43% of our organization's funding targets. So the big question for you is, Beth, when it comes to fundraising goals, do donors care about an organization's internal funding goals? And if not, and you've already started to talk about this, what's a better way to frame the conversation so as to encourage people to donate?
Yes, for me, the way this paragraph is worded, it raises more questions for the donor instead of carrying them on to the call to action. So I don't think that in the first good news, you've only talked about the impact, which I think is fantastic. You haven't talked about the fundraising goals. And so I think just highlighting what the new goals are for this year, and I mean, their own headlines are, which I think is quite good. As crises escalate, women and girls pay the price. I think that's a fantastic phrase from the larger report that they could use in here. So it isn't about, I don't think it's about we didn't get enough money, because you've just talked about in the previous paragraph what you think is the good news impact. So I think it's about either what we can do together that's more, how we can reach more, go into more countries, something like that. And then you can help us. We have together, we can surmount this big challenge. That not that exact language, but something about that. Then you're in it together. You're climbing the hill together.
Okay, so if you mention the giving itself, I'll look here in the email. There are three amounts plus other: 25, 45, and 80. And what's interesting is that over here in 45, they highlight what most supporters are giving. My question to you is that a good idea to list it that way and to talk about the $45 specifically?
So I was interested in looking at this and then going to the donation page, because they actually have a cute little heart on the monthly giving. And so I wasn't sure if these were meant to be one-time gifts or monthly gifts. I'll just say that. But I think that, moving people up to a higher level and using this as social proof is a great idea, especially because it's just under the typical kind of $50 that people might be asking for. So I think it's effective. But they would know from their own data whether this is sort of moving donors up for that one-time or monthly gift.
Okay, I would say also that since they have the fundraising data, they may know that they know already most supporters are giving 45. And as you said, it's great social proof. I want to be like everyone else. And so somebody was considering 25 or 30, they're going to bump them up now. Even if it's a one-time, you still bump them up in terms of their giving. So that's the email. I'm going to look quickly at the mobile version of this email. The image, the hero image again, it stands out. It's the story of one girl. It captures my attention right away. They have spaced out well, plenty of white space here. They've spaced out well the paragraphs. Not only did they bold the first these two paragraphs here, but they highlighted them as well. So it stands out for your skimmers and scanners of email. And down here, the giving amounts also, they stand out. So this is a good job on the mobile version of this email. We're going to look quickly at the donation page, but we're going to look at one specific thing, Beth, and I want to show the viewers what happens. You'll see here that there's on the top for a secure donation, just 1 second, I'm going to switch that to dollars. They ask if I want to give once or if I want to give monthly. And when you click on monthly, watch what happens here with the heart. That little heart goes up, which I think is a nice little touch in terms of highlighting that. What's special about monthly givers, and why should every organization have an active monthly giving program?
Well, the most important thing about monthly giving is it gives you a predictable income stream. And especially if you have people who are giving undesignated giving, they're not giving to a certain program, then you have even more flexibility. And I think for a lot of charities today, that's important. I also think for many donors, knowing what they're giving every year or every month can be very helpful in their own planning. So I think if you have donors who've been giving maybe $250 or $150 a year, and they're perhaps now feeling some of the effects of the economy, asking them for an equivalent type gift with maybe a slight bump as a monthly donation, so dividing by 12, may be able to help them have more predictability and you have more predictability. I don't believe in selling that, like you'll be able to manage your money better by doing a monthly gift, because a lot of times we talk about it for the ease of the charity when we talk about that language. I really think it's about making impact. And I like to use language about standing beside, being steadfast, being there every month, depending on the type of fundraising you're doing.
That's excellent. I will also share with everybody something I learned from Beth Ann Locke because she was talking about it. It's called making a stretch gift. You can't make the gift at once. You stretch it out over 12 months. I learned that from Beth. I will also add, just as a data point, monthly givers have higher retention rates than your average donor and higher lifetime value. Monthly giving should absolutely be part of your diversified fundraising portfolio. So takeaways for today's episode. Number one, talk about the impact in your hero image. If you're going to show me something that captures attention, give me a little bit of impact with it as well. Number two, the purpose of giving. Why do people give? Is to do good in the world. It's not to meet your internal organizational goals. I want to solve a problem, whether it's in my community or globally, and I want to do good. And number three, as we just discussed, monthly giving provides your organization with not only flexible, but steady funding over time. And that's critical to the overall well-being of every single nonprofit. Beth, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure, Ephraim.
Thank you. And thank you for being with us today for this episode of the Weekly Send, where we help your nonprofit boost your email fundraising and marketing. We'll see you next episode.